I think people deserve the ability to share their story. I get that. But the way it was presented, on the cover of a magazine, with a public launch or campaign about it, we shouldn't have to find out about that in the media. We're a family, and that's how you found out about it? A big public campaign? Do either of you have any interest in reading the journals? Stephen Boss, aka tWitch, his mother, and brother spoke out for the very first time since his passing in 2022. The reason for them speaking out isn't because they want to, but rather because Alison Hulkier, his widow, has written a book. The book was released this week, and in it, she levels all kinds of horrific allegations against Stephen. The book is so terribly written. I've read and skimmed through most of it, and there are so many outright fabrications, easily proven lies, deceptions, and rewriting of history. If you paid attention to Stephen, you'd know that a lot of what she's saying isn't true. But if you don't pay attention, and you're looking at this from the perspective of someone grieving, wanting to hear someone else's story, who's lost a loved one this way, you would be deceived. If you're a fan of Alison, you will be deceived. And if you believe what Alison says, you will be deceived. Perhaps the most disturbing part of the book is that she speaks about journals, private journals that he left, and notes that he left, and details within these journals that she alleges uncover a darker truth about him. Unless you read the book, you don't even know the gravity of the accusations she makes against him. When this came public back in January, we believed, at least on the surface, that her allegation against him would be that he was using substances and drinking too much. But that's only scratching the surface of what she accuses him of. What she accuses him of, no man should be accused of, especially because there's no proof. There's no teeth to anything she says. She doesn't share the pages that she claims he wrote this supposed horrific information on. She just alludes to it, and says that she could understand it this way because she knows. Imagine you're a family, and you find out about this book, this horrible book, from a People magazine cover article. Imagine you're the mother-in-law and the brother-in-law, and you weren't even told by the widow that this book was coming. Imagine that you're bracing yourself for the worst because, frankly, you're not sure what lies she was going to tell. That's what happened to Connie Boss Alexander and to Dre Rose. They were finally able to sit down on a network, CBS This Morning with Gayle King, and share their side of the story. I would love to see all of the journal in its entirety. I think those journals will tell you a lot. I think there are things in those journals that are good and bad. But I also believe there are journals about his personal life, his marital life, that are in there. I believe there's been a cherry picking of things from the journal to reveal or share. If we're going to be completely honest, let's talk about it all. His mom, Connie, said that she only wanted to read the journals to have a clearer view of what was going through his head, and how he was feeling and thinking. I wouldn't think his family would be wanting those journals out in the open. Those journals she writes about, she said she read them after his death. She claims that it is absolutely horrible what's in these journals. I mean, I personally don't think it is so. But let me give you an idea of the severity and the degree at which this woman is trying to destroy him in order to carry out her agendas. Before she even gets to the journal, though, I want you to understand that she doesn't view what he did as him being ill. She has no empathy for the fact that he was ill. She doesn't view unaliving oneself as an illness. Instead, she called it the most shameful act of his life. That's what she said, that his choice, and she calls it a choice, was a shameful act. And why should they celebrate him? Here's an excerpt. Asterisk, Stephen's family insisted on an open casket, citing African American tradition. I tried to reason with Stephen's mother. Funerals are to honor the dead, not mollify the living. Did she really believe that Stephen would want his loved one's last image of him to reflect the trauma of the most shameful act of his life? I reasoned that Stephen wouldn't have wanted her, or anyone else, to see him like that. And anyone who didn't know that didn't know Stephen. She was unmoved. All the family wanted was to be able to see him, and know that he was gone and say goodbye. Asterisk. She calls what he did, the unaliving, the most shameful act of his life. She also wrote, asterisk, I understood the subtext. She was mad at me, because she couldn't be angry at Stephen. Nothing I did, or didn't do was going to make her feel better. Asterisk, she fought with her mom, with Stephen's mom, because they wanted a funeral, and she wanted to cremate him. She really didn't want to have a funeral for him. She felt like, well, he took his own life, so why should we give him a funeral? It was like a chore for her. She doesn't view the way that he died as from depression, from ideation, and from disease that you cannot control. She views it as the shameful, selfish act that he chose, and that he did this to hurt her. And she thinks she's an advocate for mental illness. It's very disturbing. Allison grew up Mormon, in the Latter-day Saints church, and in that church, they teach people that people who die from when living have committed a crime. They see it no different than someone who hurts another person and steals someone's life. It is very evident that Allison is taking those same beliefs and applying them to Stephen. She's viewing it as a crime that he committed. It is not a crime under the law. It is the last symptom of untreated depression. All mental health organizations and awareness organizations are resolute. It is not a choice. It's not done because they're selfish. It's because the person who does this is in so much pain that they believe that everybody would be better off without them. They believe that their only way to escape the pain that they're in is out and not through. She shames him repeatedly throughout this book for not talking to her, not giving her a heads up, not getting help. But yet, throughout the book, she makes it very clear that she doesn't understand it, and wouldn't have been a very receptive person for him to talk to about his feelings. Her anger for him is so palpable, and the anger is so directed towards money. It seems like she's angry about money. She's angry that he left. She's angry that she lost business opportunities. She's angry that she had brands cancel on her. She lies in the book and says that they didn't have an autopsy. She lies that he was addicted to all kinds of drugs. She lies and says she told authorities not to do an autopsy because she didn't want TMZ to post that he had drugs in his system. But an autopsy was performed. The results were released on May 24, 2023, and at the time of his death, he had no drugs or alcohol in his system. He was completely sober. In the book, she characterizes him as a chronic all-day, everyday user of weed. Anyone that knows people that are chronic users knows that the substance stays in the body for weeks. It would have shown up on a test. And she writes in her book that she did not allow an autopsy because she knew that they would find it in his system. They did not find anything. And she does not explain that to the readers that an autopsy was done and that nothing was found. She lies to readers and tells them that he left her in considerable debt, that there was no insurance, there was nothing. She had to find a way to pay all these bills on her own. But yet, what she doesn't tell people is that there was life insurance. She was the beneficiary of it, and she was able to use an insurance payment to pay for a home in cash. Months after he passed away, she bought a $5 million home in cash. But on the pages, she would like viewers to believe that he left her destitute, unable to pay the bills. I don't know about you, but a $5 million home paid for by life insurance doesn't qualify as destitute. The number of lies is astronomical, and I'm just giving you a couple that are very obvious. She also claims they didn't decorate the Christmas tree, but there's video of them decorating the Christmas tree. So when I share with you what she wrote in the journals, you'll know that this is exactly false and a lie. This is what she writes. Asterisk, a few of his entries would allude to SA he endured as a child at the hands of an adult male. Asterisk allude, we have no idea. It's an illusion. And this is a woman that lies. Asterisk, trauma he detailed in strict confidence to his friend, who relayed the conversation to me only after Stephen's death. Asterisk, so we're going off a friend who claims they've heard the story, and an allusion in a book in a journal. No one in the family has heard this story. No one. Most in the family don't believe this is true. Asterisk, don't expect I'll ever have a definitive answer, but from what he wrote on the page, I couldn't help but wonder. Asterisk, and this is what she wondered. She didn't wonder about the pain he felt. This is where she went. Asterisk, did the abuse happen when he was roughly the same age as Maddox? Did becoming a biological father dislodge those buried memories of childhood SA? And did he worry that he was somehow fated to do to his son the same monstrous thing that had been done to him? Asterisk, she's a wife. She finds out her husband is allegedly SA'd. And her first thought is that Stephen did this to himself, because he was a man that wanted to harm children, and do the same thing to kids. Her first thought was not, oh my God, I can't believe the trauma and the pain that my husband must have gone through. The heartache he must have experienced. The pain and the trauma he endured by being harmed by an adult. Instead, she flips it and makes it like he's going to become a perpetrator. Those are her first thoughts. She immediately accuses him of being a predator and puts it in a paper, in a book. There's no evidence of this ever happening. There's no evidence he's done that to anyone. There is no one that has ever claimed he's done that. He didn't do anything to his son. None of this is true. Those are her perverse and disturbing thoughts. And they're stigmas that harm children that are harmed this way. She goes further into her depravity. Asterisk, what I can't understand is Stephen sat quietly as one of our mutual friends, who had been essayed as a youngster by an adult figure whom they unabashedly loved, shared the details of the essay, and the difficulties they had reconciling the ghoul from the guardian. Stephen was sympathetic and supportive as always, but he never let on that he might have been able to relate to the horrors. Asterisk, so because Stephen never told someone else that he was essayed, and that he was sympathetic to them, somehow she's mad at him, because he didn't then disclose what happened to him when they were all talking about it. And then she claims this, which is so disgusting. Asterisk, but it was there in his journal pages. Not spelled out explicitly, but expressed in so many words and doodles, that Stephen might have harmed himself because he thought he was protecting us from an even more horrifying act he thought he might be capable of. Asterisk, she's trying to say that he unalived himself because he was a predator, and he was going to harm kids. Do you see what she did there? He's a victim of childhood essay, she says, and she immediately turns him into a perpetrator. It's a stigma that's applied to victims of essay, a horrible one, that they will then become perpetrators. And there's evidence in studies that show that it's the contrary. That usually victims struggle with self-esteem issues. They struggle with substance abuse. They often become victims as adults. They are more prone to becoming a victim in another instance than they are to becoming a perpetrator. They have issues with depression. Some have thoughts of self-harm and ending their lives. Those are the most probable outcomes for a childhood victim that doesn't get help. But she goes to the least probable outcome, that he's a perpetrator. That's completely and utterly fabricated, and only being shared to harm his legacy. She lied about the autopsy. She lied about the life insurance. She lied about not decorating the trees. So why are we supposed to trust this? She then later accuses him of being gay. She accuses mushrooms of being the problem. Weed being the problem. She's throwing every allegation against someone that you can to decimate his character, because she's angry at him. Angry. She should get a therapist instead of writing this book. So I am so proud of this family for finally speaking out and sharing what they have gone through, because no family should have to find out bull crap like this through a book. No family should be forced to go through the kind of funeral that Allison describes putting this family through in this book. And anyone that reads this book that thinks it's helping anyone, but Allison is lying. If I read this book and I had a family member that unalived themselves, and I have friends that have, by the way, I'm not angry at them. I'm sad for them. I'm sad for losing them, because they were in so much pain they didn't think that they could get through it. They were so sick. I am not angry at them. I'm sad. I'm sad that they're gone. And that's how Stephen's family feels. She is angry at them because she thinks that by honoring him, they're glorifying what he did. And she doesn't want anyone to glorify what he did, because no one should be revered for doing what he did. She wants his legacy buried. And she says in the book that it's her responsibility to stop everyone from honoring and glorifying him, because he doesn't deserve it. Connie and Dre, I am so proud of you guys for speaking up. Continue to use your voice. The full episode of CBS This Morning will have the full segment on Tuesday, February 11th, with Gayle King. They will be speaking about the importance of honoring his legacy, more details about these journals, and refuting some of these lies that Allison has put out. They'll also go into more detail about this estrangement, because their side of the story deserves to be heard, and because they're not mad at him for unaliving himself, and because they want to remember him with love and with kindness. That is why Allison is mad at them. Because they don't want to get angry like she's angry. Because they don't want to have. Because they have empathy for him. She has none. She's a monster. And the whole book felt like an alibi, if I'm going to be honest. And I know it's been ruled in unaliving, but the whole book felt like a damn alibi. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.